Okay, today's video is going to be on making an authentic Johnston and Dow cartridge. The way they would have originally been made. There's probably plenty of videos out there on making these, but I studied these, and this is the closest I can think of how they were actually made. Now, the patent called for using gun cotton instead of paper. So I will make one out of magician's flash paper, and then I'll also make them out of tissue paper that's been nitrated. And so I'm going to make them with both types of paper. And so the flash paper is very hard to do the sealing coat because flash paper is, well, it's the same as gun cotton. But to make nitrocellulose glue or collodion is what they sealed these with, is basically would be the gun cotton dissolved in acetone or, like, say, ether and alcohol. So it's very hard to paint it without the paper actually dissolving while you're doing it. So you have to do it really quick and fast. So I will try to demonstrate that. So this here is one made out of flash paper. And so this one here is made out of nitrated tissue paper. And so the pattern here is a trapezoid shape. And these are really easy to cut out. And so this is for the 44 and 36. And on my Printables page, I will have a link in the description to the files to print the patterns and to print the mandrels. So the mandrel will be like this. You'll have to put a handle on it. And then there's a powder measure like this. And there's a little thing here. This is only used to hold the paper envelope. It's so delicate that this is just so you can hold it without crushing the thing. And so that's what the purpose of this is. So they're the items that you can print. And so, and the way these are, there is the paper's wrapped in a spiral, so the seams come and meet at an angle. And you can clearly see on this one how there's a crack here that's like in a spiral shape, and that's because that's where the weak point is, where it was rolled. And when I bought this cartridge from a fellow at a show, he was telling me that most of the 36s are split like this. And after kind of backwards engineering them and trying to figure them out, I can see why they did that. And this is a 44 here. And the other interesting thing about these papers, these cartridges, is you can actually see in between it's like a double, it's wrapped twice. In between the layers, you can actually see powder trapped between the two layers. And that is because when you fill it, the powder falls between the two layers, and then when you pack it in and then you paint it, the powder will show up through the coated paper on the outside. And so you can kind of see that on some of these, like here. You can see the little bits of, so that's kind of a characteristic of a Johnston and Dow cartridge. You'll see powder trapped between the two layers, plus the end is twisted. So you twist the end and you cut it off. And so I will demonstrate how these are made. And they do take some practice to make. And so, and these are the boxes. I don't know if I mentioned that. So they would have been packaged like this. And they are also packaged like this, like the hazard powder packets. So they're also packaged like that. And so for the demonstration here, I traced the outside just to show how they're folded and rolled. It just makes it easier to show up. And so On these mandrels, there is two lines. So the bottom line is the bottom of the heel of the bullet, and the other line here is the top of the bullet. And for the 36, there's actually two different mandrels. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, so this is for the Colt Cartridge Works 36, has a short heel, and this is for the longer version. So this is for this style here. This is the Era's Going Bullet Mold's new 36 Navy bullet. And so it has a longer heel, so you'd want to use this one. And for the other Colt bullet, you want to use this one here. And I think this is 3 millimeters, and this is 3.6 is the length. And so I don't know if I have any of those bullets sitting out here. And this video might go pretty long here. So here's an example of a cartridge made with the Colt Cartridge Works bullet, and this is one made with the 36 Navy bullet. And just for a comparison, so this is 17 grains, so is this, and this is a Hazard compressed cartridge. And so these are all 17 grains, and so the angle on these envelopes are 4 degrees. This one's 3, and then this one's also 3, but that's the completely different, made a different way. But the steeper the angle, the longer the cartridge has to be for a given charge. So that's why these are so long. And so the original ones were that way too. They were very long and skinny. And so, and they fit in the boxes. So when they're put in these boxes, that's why they're so long. So they will fit in this style box. And so the first thing is you want to take your mandrel here. I'm going to use the long heeled bullet here for the 36. And so when this is wrapped, you can wrap it either way. So you can wrap it this way, or you can wrap it this way, whichever direction you prefer, whichever's left or right-handed, whatever, don't matter which way it's wrapped. I like to wrap it like this. And so what I like to do is, there's hardly any glue used on this. I actually glue everything after it's assembled. And so right here in the middle of this section, I'll just take a little, just put a little dab like that. I'm getting hoarse. And so the first part here is you want to line this edge up here like this, kind of straight parallel to the bottom line here on your mandrel. And then this one here should come out halfway between these two lines here, something like that. And then just kind of carefully roll that. And you will see here, since I marked it, you will see the, and then when you wrap this up around, so it takes practice to do this. So it's something like this, and then you just kind of tuck that under, keep rolling it, and then when you're done, these two edges here should line up, and then just kind of slide this up. And right here where these two, it's like creates like a 90-degree angle here, this should line up to the top of your top line here, just like that. And then these two edges should line up perfectly, or if they overlap a little bit, that's fine. And so basically after you do that, then you just hold here and just start twirling, something like this. And so when you're done, you'll have something like that. And then this end will need to be cut off. For that, I use these nail clipper pliers. They're like flush cutting. And so I just kind of close to the bottom there, trim that off. And I think there's a million of those little ends behind my toolbox. So they will go shooting across the shop here. And then for the end, I use these dropper bottles and just put a little tiny drop of, little bit of glue on the bottom there, where you just cut that off. And then kind of take and smash and turn that in the twist direction. And I guess the ink's bleeding out there. And then originally I think they basically would pop these off and fill them like this, but I like to trim them off the size before I do it. And so then right where these two ends are here, you can barely see the black line sticking out, so I usually just start there like this and just trim that off. So when you're done here, you can kind of see the red line through the, so right here there's a little triangle of 2 layers, and the rest of it is all 1 layer all the way around where the bullet would attach. So this is 1 layer. It's like a ring of 1 layer here, and then the rest of it is a double layer, and then the 2 ends meet up here. And so I don't always get them perfect. Sometimes they overlap or there's a gap there, but they just sort of line up like that. And so that would be a finished envelope. And so after you're done with that, you want to take this holder here, and this is just to hold the envelope. And so what I'll do is just kind of transfer that over like this. And so this is just so I can grip it. That's pretty much all it does. And so the next step here is to take my scooper here, kind of level this off and pour this in, something like that. Kind of tap it a little bit. Take your bullet and just place that in there like that, and kind of push and twist a little bit. And so when you lift this out, you'll be left with something like this. And now what I originally did was I actually would hold it like this, and I would take my paintbrush and I would actually paint the glue through the paper, since it's only 1 layer there, and that would glue your bullet to your envelope, and then you could finish sealing it. But after a while, your fingers start to get all kinds of glue on them and stuff. It's kind of a mess. So what I use is these clamps here. These are from the Hazard cartridges that I make. And so I just kind of stick them in here like this, and it holds them in place. And the other thing too is, since it's kind of compressing it a little bit, I can kind of tap it and it'll settle the powder and make that thing really nice and rock hard, and compresses the powder really nice. And so I will assemble a whole bunch like this in a row. So these are already been done. So I will do a bunch like that, and then I will actually glue everything at one time. So I'll make like however many clamps I got, and then I'll paint them all at one time. Just found it's easier to do it something like that. And so I will just take this, and this gives me a good handle here, so I can just kind of hold it like this. And so I just paint through it all the way. And I'm not able to do the very bottom here, but that's okay, because what I'll end up doing is, so after I do about 5 or 6 of these at this step, and you can kind of see how it actually turns transparent, and here you'll see the powder, little bits of powder coming through the two, where the two layers are. And so I'll put a good coat around the top here, make sure that there's enough glue that goes through the paper, something like this. And so after I do about four or five of those, they'll be dry enough that I can actually take the end off like this, and I'll just finish painting the very bottom here where I didn't get. So that's a finished cartridge right there then at that point. They just need to be waxed. And so and the 44s are made the same way. They're actually made, I'll do a 44 here with this one that's marked. And so yeah, just put just a little bit right there. That just kind of keeps the, and so that's the same way. You kind of line it up square to this edge like that. This will go about halfway, and then kind of just carefully tuck and roll. Something like that. And then this little, the top here will kind of create this corner here, the top where you just barely see the black. If it doesn't quite line up, you can kind of take it and slide it like this. So you can slide that up. And in this here, you can kind of see how the two lines here will kind of line up. This one slightly overlaps. And then you just kind of go like this. Now I'm doing this slow. And so then you would cut the end off like this, put a dab of glue on it, like that, kind of squash it, find your line here, and so that's a finished 44. I'm going to do another one here just to show that. And the other thing, when I cut these papers, I almost forgot to show how I cut these. And so this tissue paper is really hard to nitrate. And so what I end up doing is, this is cheap dollar store gift wrapping tissue paper. So what I do is I will take, say, you know, this whole thing here, and I will actually submerge this in potassium nitrate water and let it soak. And I will pull it, let it soak all the way through like this. Now this is like all kind of stuck together. And then, so I'll do a whole bunch of this. And then after that, I will cut it into 2-inch wide strips on my paper cutter. Something like this. This is an end cut. And so to cut the trapezoids out here, just taking your pattern and you line it up like this, and you'll need a pair of scissors, and you just cut. And I leave the papers stuck together, that way they're easier to cut. So there's one, and you just flip it around, something like this. And they don't have to be exactly perfect either. I mean, you can be a little bit off on them. You just might have a little bit more overlap or the seam might have a gap in it. So basically I'll go down to strip cutting these out. So these are the right shape. And the 36s are the same way. That's also a 2-inch strip. It's a little bit different angle though. I know it's actually the same angle. So I can, the top and the bottom, this length is different. And so if you make a, so you can use the same 2-inch strip to do both sizes. And so I will, so that's a 36. And so these are 44s. And to unstick these, what I'll do is you take it over the edge of the table and you kind of pull it kind of like this, and it will actually, you can kind of see how it will curl and separate them, and then you can go like this. Makes it easier if you can. So that's how I separate it after I cut it. So it is kind of an advantage that they all stick together when you nitrate a big pile of them like this. It makes it just easier to cut out your patterns. And so I'm going to wrap one more here. I'm going to wrap one more here just to show a demonstration. Because it does take practice, kind of. So I'll just put a little dab here in the middle of this one side. It depends on which way you're wrapping it. But if you're wrapping it the same direction as me, over the top like this, so over the top and around the bottom this direction, so you kind of just go like this. And you might have to move it out like that. And you can see here I'm down below this, so I gotta take it and slide it. And as you slide it, these two edges will kind of pull apart and kind of line themselves up. And so then you just twist it. And and I like the long handles. That way I can use my finger, my thumb, and my pinky fingers to hold these, and then I can use these to wrap and hold it like this, rather than having a short, stubby little mandrel. I like my mandrels long. I just found I have more control of them that way. So I can kind of go like this with it, basically. And so I just cut the end off like that. A little tiny drop of glue. It doesn't take a whole lot. Kind of smash and roll. And where these two parts cross, where the two parts kind of cross over here, it'll give you a place to find your line and to start it. And so if anybody prints these, I will suggest printing it out of a nice bright color that will actually go through. So when you put this on here, you can actually see your lines through your paper. So using a bright color and use a black marker to make your lines to fill in your, so you can see them easier, helps in cutting and lining stuff up. So bright colors are better for this mandrel. And so let me just fill this one here. And so this is, the 36s are 17. The 44s are about 24, 25 grains. It's about probably 24 and a half, 25, something like that. And to the bottom sticks out, if you tap the bottom of your thing here, you can kind of settle your powder with your, something like this. And so I'll take my bullet. And the other reason I like gluing it after the bullet's in is because I found that when I sometimes if you glue the bullet and you put it in this thin paper, it kind of wets it and it gets a big wrinkle. It kind of wrinkles up and it's hard to get the bullet in. When it's dry, it don't matter. You can actually take it in and out, move it around, adjust it. And so that's a 44, and then I kind of go like this. And that'll hold that in place till you coat the whole thing. And so I'm going to coat this one here. Now this is made out of flash paper, magician's flash paper. Now this stuff is really hard to coat. I mean extremely hard. Now this one here you can kind of see when you paint it, it actually dissolves this paper. And so you can kind of see the powder kind of started to stick through here and melt through it. So you kind of have to go fast and do it once. You kind of got to do a light coat quick and be done with it. Otherwise, it'll dissolve it and fall apart. And according to the patent, that's what they used was gun cotton. But I just find the tissue paper here that's nitrated works just as well. There might be a little bit of paper left over. But it's a lot easier to work with than the original gun cotton or the magician's flash paper. So I'm going to paint this one here. Now this bullet's been glued in with glue stick. This paper is a lot thicker and heavier, so you can kind of glue your bullet and stick it in and it'll stay put until you coat it. You can even just leave it like this if you want. And there's a little bit of, I used the glue on the bottom here. But I just want to demonstrate how to paint these. When you paint them, I'm going to paint them without this because I don't make many this way, but when you paint it, I got to do the whole thing real quick, real fast, and be done with it. You can't slop it on and go back over it a second time. If you go to hit it a second time, you'll actually kind of melt through it. And the other thing about this is any scraps, so if they're using gun cotton or like this magician's flash paper, any scraps that they would have had, they would have, I've taken them, you take them off and you actually put them in your solvent and it will actually, this paper will turn into this glue. That's how this glue is actually made. So it's basically dissolved gun cotton. And so I hold it like this and just kind of go like this. And I think I got way too much on here already. Yeah, just me touching that, it's starting to fall apart right there. And so I do not like using this stuff. Yeah, right there. Oh man, that's like ready to, yeah, that's ready to fall apart. So that's basically as much as I would mess with. If I mess with that anymore, that and here I missed a spot, I would have to wait till this dries and then go back and hit that spot again. If I try doing this now, it will absolutely disintegrate. And I will not set this down until it is dry. Luckily it dries quick. So you can see how it almost turns transparent. You can actually see the powder here fell down in this little pocket and dissolved. And so that's using actual gun cotton or flash paper. And that is really difficult. You can experiment with it, but I find it to be very difficult and has a high failure rate. And just to show I will demonstrate with a piece of flash paper here how it actually dissolves. And so this is a scrap piece. So if I just take this and I just kind of go like this, see, it disintegrates. So if I take that and I stir it all in here real good, it will actually dissolve into this glue and become part of it. And so yeah, flash paper can be used. They must have, I don't know if they had thicker paper or what, but it's definitely difficult to use, and I wouldn't really recommend going that route. But if you want an absolutely authentic Johnston and Dow paper cartridge, that's how you would make it. And so here is a nice picture of one I just want to show here at the end. And you can see the contents of a packet and the way the cap, and I have another video here of me rolling caps. So that's how the caps would have been made and rolled in a spiral paper tube. And you can kind of see here the powder stuck between the layers, and even the diagonal line here. So you can kind of see the something like this. So you can kind of see the diagonal lines. So that's about it. If you have a 3D printer, you can go to my Printables page and print these mandrels and all the tools here that I showed. And these clamps here are on the hazard cartridge page on my Printables website or page, I guess you call it. So I think I'm just going to add these to this so you don't have to search for them if you don't want to. But these are not necessary. You can actually just hold them, but it saves your fingers getting all full of glue. So I guess that's about it. Thanks for watching.